welcome to race number 16 on the season for the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. As we're here today at the tricky triangle of Pocono Raceway, 3 corners, completely different banking in all 3. We've already talked about last week the fact that this series is an open setup series. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, with that being said, how in the world do you get a car to handle not only in turn 1, but turn 2 and turn 3?
I mean, mainly you got to make sure your car gets through turn 1. That's going to be one of the more difficult corners for these drivers. There's going to be a bump in the middle of corner number 1 on the high side that these drivers are going to have to try to avoid when they're side-by-side action. But mainly that's what you got to worry about. Then you've got all the other 2 corners that are very different, but are a lot easier compared to corner number 1.
Get more in depth about the banking around those 3 particular turns here today at Pocono. But on the pole for today's race is Logan Helton. Now, we saw him go to victory lane twice in the last 4 weeks. Been a little bit of a time since we've seen him back in victory lane, but starting here on the inside of the front row, obviously Pocono is one of those tracks where usually track position is important, but are we going to see the draft come into play on these long straightaways and give drivers maybe 5th on back inside the top 10, maybe even mid-pack, be able to work their way to the front of the field?
The draft is something that's going to be very important for these first about 2 to 3 laps, and then after that, you'll start to see drivers that are able to conserve their tires, able to pull away, and drivers that really are struggling in these corners, they're going to start falling back.
Other stories we'll have to follow up on here as well. A lot of drivers making their debuts here this evening. We've also got quite a number of drivers from the Soda Guys Cup Series that are filling in here tonight and or driving in a 3rd or 4th entry out of a certain team. And we've also got a pretty good points battle going on for the final playoff position. Drivers that are just above the cut line, like Kevin Roy, Roger Gregory, they're in the field, along with other drivers that are trying to either point or win their way into the playoffs, including Brandon Andrews, Greg Newsom, and Cody Jordan. And so a track like Pocono, where a lot of times we see a lot of long green flag runs and fuel strategy type races, could play its part very much so into what the playoff stands are going to look like at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, this track is going to be a lot of fuel strategy if we get a long green flag run. And, you know, the last couple of weeks in the Soda Guys series, as well as for this series here, it's one of those things where we've started to see these guys be a little aggressive here in the first couple of laps, and then they start to settle it out later on in the course. We'll have to wait and see if these guys can settle it out early, or if we'll have that usual pattern that we've been seeing of cars getting into accidents here in the first couple of laps.
At both Iowa and Chicagoland, we saw early cautions. I think we also saw an early caution 3 weeks ago at Michigan. Pretty sure we ended up having a caution in all 3 of those races in the first 10 laps. So we'll see if these drivers will be able to give each other enough room here today. Pocono's another of those tracks as well where things get spread out very quickly. So to your point, I think we're going to see these guys be very aggressive early on in the restarts because they'll be the closest proximity they'll probably be to each other all day.
Yeah, and these guys have had plenty of practice here during Pocono. I mean, right now this week on iRacing, it's all Pocono that's going on, and so these drivers have been able to have some time to be on this course. And a lot of things that I've been watching throughout this week of racing and watching is the fact that this restarts that we have are going to be insane. We're going to be seeing cars going 3, 4, sometimes even 5 wide coming down to corner number 1. They got to figure out how to get around the corner, being that spread out from one another. So it's going to be a tricky corner number 1 for these drivers. They got to be patient, but also it's the best time to be aggressive.
Last 5 races have been won by the 2 drivers here on the front row. Charlotte and Mid-Ohio went to pole sitter Logan Helton. David Santini winning the next 3 at Michigan, Iowa, and last week at Chicagoland. You see them going through turn 3. The sign there on the wall says it all. What turn 4? There is no 4 corners here. Green flags in the air, 70 laps at Pocono.
Logan Helton, Santini are going to be the ones being side-by-side at the start. Everyone else, though, is going to be scattering around. We're waiting to see if anyone's going to make any big moves. It's all the action all the way in the back.
A couple of guys moving down to the inside back there. One of them looked like it might have been the 16, and I think that was Joseph Pocono moving down there on purpose, actually dropping to the back here early on. Of course, Pocono driving for Hendrick Motorsports in the Soda Guy Cup Series, filling in here tonight for Carson Bowers at Colleague Racing. Another fill-in driver up there in that 3rd position, that red Branch Chevrolet, the number 7. That's Ty McWhirter, who drives for Gaunt Brothers Racing in the 96 over in the Cup Series.
Yeah, and we're going to be seeing these guys get loose. I mean, you've been seeing it with cars. I mean, Jeffrey Meyer just got a little loose there, but off of turn number 1, it was Tim Williams that got loose. It's going to be off of every single corner. These cars get extremely snappy. You got to be careful coming off of turn number 3 just as well as all the others.
Of course, the way that you want to have your car set up is loose early, so that way when the car tightens up on the long run, it's not going to plow into the wall. And caution! There's the early caution you talked about. Bill Dolphin, the 51, looks like he may have looped it around off of turn 3, which is maybe one of the toughest turns here at Pocono to execute.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those corners where you want to get into the gas early, but you have to let your car drift way longer than you expect it to. And if you get on the gas too soon, as you see there for Dolph, you spin around.
I believe that the leader had already crossed the line when the caution flew, so they are actually, I believe, racing it back to the yellow flag. So we have not officially taken the caution here for the first time today. It looked like when we jumped back and looked at Bill Dolph's Exxon Chevrolet Camaro, it didn't look like he hit anything, so we may have gotten away with one here early on in this event, but Helton right now with a very big advantage, about 2.66 seconds back to David Santini. I'm not necessarily certain. It might be frozen field, and these drivers are just trying to get back to the start-finish line to pick up the pace car.
Well, due to the fact of where the caution is, they have to race all the way around the track, not against each other, but to get to the pace car. So that's why they're running as hard as they can. Some drivers in the back will be taking a little bit more lenient, trying to get back to the pace car, but that's what they're all racing to, as you're seeing Logan Helton finally get into the pace car. 2 drivers, actually take that back, 3 drivers started in pit lane during this race. That's going to be the 5, the 1, and the 15, all starting on the pit road. So this helps them a ton to get back up with the field.
Now we've seen, you mentioned those early cautions we've had the last few weeks, and drivers that have those early spins sometimes end up getting disqualified. I'm noticing the 51 has been taken to the garage area. Not sure if Bill Dolph may have been given a disqualification for this early spin or not.
He was given a disqualification, so it's one of those things where the league is giving you time throughout the week to get your car prepared. They feel like, hey, if you're spinning out the first lap, maybe your car isn't fit to race the rest of the race, and that is what happened to Bill Dolph. Maybe next week he'll be able to do a little bit better.
It didn't look like much of a spin. We're going to actually take a look inside the car and watch his hands here as he tries to save it out of turn 3, but since it was on the racing surface, it wasn't enough to bring out a yellow. They were 3 wide ahead of him there. You were talking about that we're going to see them possibly 3, 4, maybe even 5 wide on these restarts, so it didn't take them long in the back of the pack to decide to go 3 abreast.
Yeah, I mean, even coming down the straightaway at the first restart, back in the back of the pack, they were going 3 wide, and it's just, you got to make your bold moves now, better than now than later in the run. So it's good to see these guys making those bold moves. I know on the first restart, the car that I saw trying to go 3 wide, the furthest up in the field was Evan Longacre, who's been trying to get up here. He's 9th at the moment, but he was trying to make some bold moves early on.
Obviously, with this early caution coming out, these drivers really only completing probably about 1.5 laps under green flag conditions. I think they were kind of taking it easy there on the second half of that second lap, trying to get themselves back to the start-finish line. Where does Pocono rank as far as the tire wear scale? I mean, if we start seeing some cautions pop up here, do we see everyone come to pit road, or is this not as abrasive on the Goodyears that drivers might take track position over tires?
It's pretty abrasive. I would imagine that these drivers are going to stay out. They're not going to get in the pits because of it's being early on in this race. As I say that, some cars have come in because of damage. That's going to be the 39 of Greg Newsom, as well as Vincent Arthur. Both of them got a little bit of damage, had to come in and repair that. But usually it's after about 5 to 10 laps. If there's a caution, you'll usually come in, get the tire wear, get better wear on your tires with fresher Goodyears, just so that you can have that better run than everyone else. And that's the one sign that I really can expect drivers. Anything past 5 laps, we might be seeing some drivers thinking about that strategy of coming in.
With 70 laps here today, these drivers have 4 tire sets at their disposal. And I'm not sure if maybe Newsom or Arthur may have taken on a set here early on in this one, so they'll have to figure out how to split up those other 3 sets if they did indeed take on one of the sets here in the first 5 laps. Now, I don't know about you, Sam, but I run, obviously, as you know, on the Enter 2003 sim, and in all sorts of leagues, it seems like the particular tracks that drivers always seem to want to show up at, obviously the super speedways of Daytona and Talladega, but Pocono always seems to be a favorite. And we've got some drivers here, as I said, that are making their first starts in the season with Greenlight SS Racing having the 07 and the 08 in the field, James Dowen in the 07, Hilton Young in the 08, choosing Pocono as their debut track. We've obviously got a number of drivers, as we mentioned, filling in here from the Cup Series. What is it about Pocono that draws drivers to it?
I mean, it's one of those tracks that you can really make a lot of bold moves and it will stick most of the time. I mean, like I said, we're seeing drivers that can go possibly 3, 4, sometimes 5 wide just down the front stretch going into turn number 1. It's one of those tracks you don't see that very often, not even at super speedways. So it's a fun track to be at for sure.
There's DGM Racing's entry, the number 90 of Jay Queen, making his debut here tonight as well. And we're used to seeing Tom Drayling filling in at the number 18 if Tom Laneville's not able to make it. But here tonight, it's Zachary Smith in the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. So a lot of new names here peppered through the field, and going to be interesting to see here how they do against the guys we're familiar with seeing here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series week after week. As the lights are out atop the pace car, we're going to go back green this time on lap 6 of 70.
It's going to be a fun rest of this race to watch with drivers staying out. And, they can go about halfway. This should be a one-stop race for these drivers if we go green for the rest of the way from here. But you never know. I mean, we've already seen an early caution during lap number 1. We might see some earlier, even more cautions happening. Because here at Pocono, just because how close everyone is, how aggressive they are on restarts, cautions could breed cautions.
Absolutely. Roger Gregory is the driver we kind of are highlighting here during the last couple of races, as he sits right on the bubble spot of 12th for the playoff drivers. 37 points over Brandon Andrews, who was on pit road under this yellow. He's going to restart back in 23rd. Other drivers that we'll have to keep an eye on that will try and close in on that 12 include the 39 of Greg Newsom and the 9 of Cody Jordan, who's going to restart in the 4th position.
Green flags in the air. It's going to be Logan Helton and Santini really pulling away cleanly. It's about 4 drivers, all single file, everyone else behind them, all 2x2.
And McWhirter and Cody Jordan, a couple of teammates there at Junior Motorsports. Now, the 7 car has not been run this season. It is an entry out of Junior Motorsports, but it's making its debut in the series tonight with Cup Series driver McWhirter behind the wheel. He's going to move out of the way, looks like, of teammate Cody Jordan. Move Jordan up to 3rd. Here comes Joshua Gordon. He's going to slide into 4th.
Now you got Jeffrey Meyer just waiting to see if he can get by the 7 machine, as it was just being real generous there, but also just being stuck where he was at. Now you're seeing McWhirter making the pass on the inside here in turn number 3, if he can make it stick, as turn 3 can be a tricky spot for these drivers.
Definitely can. Maybe one of the 3 corners that you most feel the lightness of the rear end of your car if you have it set up really, really loose, just based on the fact it's the one corner that has the least amount of banking. As Joshua Gordon is another driver that we've seen a lot of speed out of him, as a driver we could potentially see win his way into the playoffs. Right now, he is 69 points behind the cutoff line, currently 17th if the playoff standings were to finish the way they are right now. So we'll see if he can work his way up here. But right now, everybody is chasing those BJ McLeod Motorsports cars with Logan Helton, David Zantini out in front. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Barry Stevens in the 78. Obviously, we know he's been having some great momentum the last couple of weeks. The 3rd entry out of BJ McLeod Motorsports. Right now, running in the 8th position. And just this week, that number 78 with the Disabled Veterans of America paint scheme, he got the Scheme of the Week award here for Pocono. So great job for him. Nice to see a nice new livery there on that Toyota Supra.
And I mean, that's a great sponsor to be repping on that 78 machine. And, we've been watching the BJ McLeod guys dominating for most of the time that we've been broadcasting this series. And it seems like every week we're talking to these guys, and the funniest conversations we always have was with Santini, because he'll always say, I don't really feel very comfortable with the race we're going to. And then he'll show up and have a great run. Once again, a great run to a race he said, I don't really feel that comfortable with.
Exactly. Right now, running about 6/10 behind his teammate Logan Helton. We just saw an exchange there. Some passes inside the top 10. Evan Longacre going to move up to 9th. Tim Williams up to 10th, as they just got around the 07 of James Dowen. Roger Gregory now trying to reel him in as he'll try to move to 11th. Here comes Williams. He'll battle with Longacre. That's for the 9th spot.
Yeah, Williams is trying to move back up after really drifting back a little bit from where he once was after getting loose off turn number one on lap number one. So he's trying to make a charge forward, but got to give credit to the '07 machine, who's back in 11th behind Longacre. James Dowen, he started back in he started back, yeah, in 17th up to 11th, moved up 6 positions. But that '07 now dropping back as I said that he was moving forward.
Way up the track there in turn one. Ooh, almost a little contact between himself and Zachary Smith as they exit down the Long Pond straightaway. And I believe that's going to lose Smith a spot. Jay Queen in the 90 going to move on by and move up to the 13th position. As a little bit further up, we've got a battle potentially brewing for that third position. You've got Junior Motorsports teammates Cody Jordan, Ty McWhirter, and Joshua Gordon has joined us as well.
Yeah, I mean, Cody Jordan's been fading up like you see there. He's not able to hold the bottom line as well as these other drivers have been. You got to wonder that tire drop off. I mean, it's already only a couple of tenths difference, but obviously that 9 machine only feels really good in those first couple of laps because he's just been off since about running 2 green flag runs.
He ran it really wide off of 3. That opened the door for McWhirter to make a move on the front straightaway, now alongside as they exit out of turn 1. And if McWhirter's able to make the pass, you can be sure Joshua Gordon's going to try to fill in that hole on the inside, heading down into 2, and he is there.
And just like that, the 7 machine back up into 3rd place.
Was there contact right there? That was close.
I'm going to go back and see, but it just looked like they were close to touching one another. Yeah, there was no contact made, but abrasive moves had to be made so they didn't touch one another. Losing a little bit time there on McWhirter.
Here comes Chris Whitaker in the Richard Childress Racing number 2. He's now joined into this group after that side-by-side battle for 4th place. He's now hounding Cody Jordan for a spot inside the top 5, and just behind them, Barry Stevens and Jeffrey Meyer are starting to close in on this group.
Car just pulled into the pits. It's got to be Kevin Roy, who looks like he hit the wall pretty hard, has to come into the pits now to get that damage repaired. This is an unscheduled stop for himself.
Roy, JD Motorsports entry, came into this race 56 points ahead of the cut line, and you know that may seem like it's an insurmountable, task for drivers to try and drop him out, or maybe impossible for him to even make mistakes to drop out. But when we get down to this pressure point of the season, nearing the end of the regular season, that's when a lot of drivers can feel the pressure and end up making mistakes.
Right now I'm watching some passing being made around the 12th position where we're starting to see Greg Newsom making some passes. He just got by Zachary Smith and now moving forward against trying to make other passes going on.
Let's not forget, he was one of 3 drivers that came to pit road under that first caution. So we're starting to see even the difference of 2 to 3 laps of tires opposed to drivers that have stayed out since the drop of the green flag.
Zachary Smith's car looks like it's a little bit out of rhythm, might have something going on with that machine. He just seems a little off, losing almost 4 positions there in corner number 2 all the way down to 3.
Joseph Piscota going to make a pass on Greg Newsom. That moves him up to 14th. You know, there's a lot of guys that are in the field here tonight, like Piscota, like Ty McWhirter. These are guys that we're going to be seeing tomorrow night in the Soda Guys Cup Series here again at Pocono. So, you know, not only getting some good owner points for the respective teams they're subbing for and the drivers they're subbing for, but getting good experience of stuff they could maybe apply in tomorrow night's race.
Yeah, I mean, you could get a little bit of a sense of what the draft is like a little bit here. I mean, the cars are so different from the B car to the A car on iRacing and in real life, as you're seeing the 07 of James Dowen going high again, losing positions. And it just seems like if you come in a little too hot, go high, you're at least going to lose 2 positions if you're that close, maybe even more if you're not able to get down.
Just lost a spot not only to Piscota, but also to Vincent Arthur. Both Piscota and Arthur teammates over at Hendrick Motorsports in the Cup Series, but driving for 2 different teams here tonight as fill-in drivers. We mentioned the fact that this track of Pocono, 3 corners, 3 different configurations. Turn 1 has the most banking, 14 degrees. It's modeled after the corners at Trenton Speedway.
No caution.
Caution's out for Jacob Shorba in the 1. Turns could
entering
get
turn
by
number
him.
3, and it snapped on him in the middle of the corner. A really weird. That's just so weird. It just the back end just slipped under him, and around he went, smashing the back end into the outside wall.
Unlike Bill Dolph's spin that brought out the first caution, contact was made for the one machine. And boy, if the car was loose with it all in one piece, having that rear spoiler there all bent down and not having that downforce, that's going to make it even looser going into these turns.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get some rear end damage and you lose the bumper, yes, it sucks to have that type of a damage, but it wouldn't hurt that much. It's when you mess with the spoiler and that type of arrow here, just because of all the long stretches that you have, that is some huge disadvantages that you'll have against everyone else.
There you see the spin you were talking about, and yeah, kind of an unusual place for it to happen. We normally expect to see it either on entry or on exit. That was halfway between entry and the center of the corner.
Yeah, that looks like that could have been a mechanical failure in some way, of in game or even out of game, because that was just a weird snapping motion to see in a weird part of the track that you usually don't see it.
Take and see with the gyro cam perspective of the driver going through the corner. You can see he was working the hands even going into the corner, so he kind of got the feeling the car was going to come around on him, and eventually it just snapped, but almost like there was no warning. So yeah, very unusual spin to see right there. As Shorb is going to bring out the second caution of the day, and looks like everybody is going to be coming to pit road.
Yeah, everyone should be coming into pit road this time, and I believe you said there was a tire limit during this race, and the tire limit can really change this race overall.
Really could, because of the fact that if we end up getting some late race yellows, in with early cautions here. I mean, second caution, we're only 50 laps in. We're not even a quarter of the way through this race right now. So, I mean, there is definitely a chance we could end up seeing some drivers that save their tires now, may be able to use them for a late race restart. And we saw how Greg Newsom, on even 2-lap fresher tires, was able to cut his way through the field pretty well on that last run.
Yeah, I mean, with just having a couple lap fresher tires, it helps so much just to do hold lines that other drivers can't hold, get through one a little bit smoother than other guys, and it helps a ton here. But everyone coming in, everyone's back on equal ground, and I don't really see anyone touching this 8 machine unless he makes a very bad mistake, either on the pits or if he accidentally slides into the wall or something, because Logan Helton has the strongest car out here. During practice, he was 3/10 faster than everyone else. And even during qualifying, he was 3/10 faster. So this 8 machine is hungry for a win today.
Just as important. Whoa, look at this. David Santini's going to win the battle off pit road, and I think McWhirter may have gotten Helton for second. I was just going to say, Helton's had clean air. That's also helped him, but he just lost it there on pit road.
Yeah, looking at it, it just looks like gaining speed by going a little bit faster than what everyone else was Santini. He was going about a second faster on the lane than that 8 machine, and just some simple adjustments like that can cost you, with Logan Helton coming in a little bit slower than everyone else. But Brandon Andrews came in a lap before everyone else, and he's in the lead at the moment.
Now, I'm a little confused by this because of the fact that normally the lap before the leaders come to pit road, it is a closed pit lane. The only thing I'm wondering is, did Brandon Andrews hit pit road before Shorba's spin out and was on pit road able to take service? I'm not certain about that.
Looking to see.
Really all would come down to the timing of when the caution came out. And maybe Brandon Andrews actually stayed out there to lead a lap. Remember, he's in the battle to try and get into a playoff spot. No, he's staying out again, so...
Well, it looks like he's fading back now, so I think he might have been hit with a penalty of sorts as he's drifting all the way back after leading that lap. Brandon Andrews, I went back to look. When he came into the pits, it was after the caution was weighed, but everyone was trying to race up to the pace car. So I'd imagine that the pits were closed at that moment. So it is putting the 5 car all the way back at the end of the line.
As he drops to the rear of the field, that will give the race lead to David Santini. We've gotten the 1 to green signal. So before we go back green, just to finish the point I was going to bring up before Shorba had his moment over in turn 3. Turn 1, we already talked about, 14 degrees of banking, modeled after Trenton. Turn 2, 8 degrees of banking. That's actually the tunnel turn modeled after Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is why they're able to carry so much speed into that corner off the Long Pond straightaway. And then turn 3, the lowest amount of banking, 6 degrees, modeled after a short track in the Milwaukee Mile. So, man, I mean, to have 3 different degrees of banking and hope that your car is going to stick and not spin out on you as the degrees of banking get lower and lower as you traverse around this course, it's got to give these drivers a little bit of an uneasy feeling every single lap.
Yeah, it's a little uneasy, and you got to make sure that your setup is at least good for one corner, and you got to hope that you're able to control it for the rest of the corners, because it's not going to feel good on every single corner that you race at, just because of how different they are. So these corners are so different that I'm super surprised to see how well they're running, but I'm mainly interested to see how is this 8 machine going to move from 3rd to 1st, because he's got the fastest car, but how does his car run under traffic?
That first time, he's going to be restarting in dirty air behind his teammate David Santini. Got BJ McLeod Motorsports on the insides of rows 1 and 2. Junior Motorsports on the top side with Ty McWhirter 2nd and Cody Jordan in 4th. Joshua Gordon completes the top 5. Green flag back in the air on lap 18. We're closing in on halfway at Pocono.
Santini gets a great run, and now it's side-by-side for 2nd place, and it's really utilized the draft as you're seeing Santini pull back up, trying to block the outside, but it's going to give all the space down low to Logan Helton, who's trying to make this pass on McWhirter, but just not able to do it as the 7 machines hold strong on the outside.
A little moment there for Chris Whitaker in the middle of turn 1. That car got a little loose on him. Lost a little bit of ground as he'll slide into 5th place. Watching this side-by-side battle continue for 2nd. Helton going to drive it in deep into turn 2. He'll clear for the runner-up position.
He'll clear, and he actually was running lower than our leader, so able to get a little bit better run, but here goes the 7 shooting back with that crossover.
What Helton gained on entry, he lost on exit in terms of speed, and McWhirter right back on the attack. Further back, they're battling for that 4th position. Cody Jordan looked to his left, saw Chris Whitaker there for a moment. They settled that battle out, and even further back, Tim Williams and Barry Stevens, they're starting to cut their way up towards the top 5. As you see Santini IndyCarring it, snaking down the front straightaway, trying to take away any draft from his teammate in the 8th.
Yeah, snaking down is trying to break up that draft so the cars behind him aren't able to utilize it to really gain on them. You got to make sure that you snake not too aggressively so you don't scrub off the time that you'll be having down the straightaway, as you're starting to see some other cars here trying to break away and make these passes on the backstretch.
David Santini, 6 wins on the season, so obviously playoffs-wise, he is pretty well set and has a lot of playoff points to boot. Logan Helton, a 2-time winner, trying to at least get 50% of what his teammate has, but he's got bigger things to worry about as Ty McWhirter right there hounding him still for that 2nd position, literally almost on his bumper off of turn 3.
He's trying to do everything he can to get back up there, and he's trying so hard, and I'd imagine that he's just trying to follow suit on his teammate and make the pass here in the next couple of laps, but that 99 machine of fresher air, it's really helping him stay to where he's at.
A bit further back, you've got Barry Stevens and Tim Williams. They are kind of leading a 2nd group right now behind the top 6, trying to close in here and make it what would be about 13 cars up in one long line here down the straightaways all the way back to Jay Queen in the 62. Then behind them, you've got a good battle going on. Roger Gregory and Greg Newsom, they're duking it out side by side. That's for 14th place.
Side-by-side action back there, and then you also got Barry Stevens as well as Jeffrey Meyer thinking about making a pass here in turn number 3. Meyer is trying to dig it in there to make this pass here as Barry Stevens makes the pass for 6th place with crossover made. Here comes Whitaker on the inside.
Those two going to be duking it for 6th. Behind them, the battle for 8th, as you mentioned, between Meyer and Tim Williams. Joseph Piscotto waiting to see what happens there. Whoa, contact! Williams slideways and saves it. Tremendous save by the 19. That should have probably been a wreck in turn 1.
Due to the fact that he was sideways in turn 1, the corner kind of helped him guide himself to stay straight, losing momentum, but able to keep that car straight, losing a couple of positions due to that. But man, Tim Williams He had a struggle on lap number 1, and he's still trying to hold on to that thing, but that slide is not going to help those tires in the long run.
And that might have affected why he took turn 2 so wide there, losing spots to both Pocono and now Vincent Arthur. That just dropped him outside of the top 10 with those rear tires heating up. Now he's going to have to approach these corners a lot more different than he did just 2 laps ago.
But luckily, he's not being pressured from behind, so now he can just take a breath, really recenter that car, and get back into the rhythm that he needs to be in for these upcoming laps here. So he's just got to keep it calm and steady as that 19 machine. Yes, he gained all of those positions back that he lost from lap number 1, but now he's got to get them all back here after being practically spun for a second there.
Let's not forget the type of race that Tim Williams is coming off of last week at Chicagoland when he was running up inside the top 5 most of the second half of that race. Got hit with a speeding penalty, fell a lap down, somehow was able to work his way up to finish in the 6th position. So he's definitely knows about coming back from adversity. Now he's going to have to do it again here at Pocono, trying to fight his way back up inside of the top 10. As up at the front, best battle right now continues to be for that 4th position. That's where Cody Jordan's got his hands full again, not only with his race car, but with Joshua Gordon at 93.
Yeah, this is around the time that we start to see Cody Jordan where his car just starts to feel finicky with him, where he's not really feeling that solid, starts to drift up a little bit more and more each corner. And, you know, that 9 machine, you got to think that he's trying to hold on and run as well as he can, but he's just not able to stay as low on the corner as everyone else can.
Saw right there that Joshua Gordon ran the entry of turn 1 a little bit higher. That allowed him to drive it deeper off the corner and gain straightaway speed here down the Long Pond Straight. That's why he was able to close back up to the bumper of that Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet Camaro. The question is, though, can he get enough speed to get to the left rear quarter panel? That's where he needs to be if Cody Jordan's going to have to give up the spot. Now it looks like he may have the run down here into 3.
That was a great turn 2, putting him right where he needs to be for turn 3, right below the 9 machine, pushing him up just a little bit. The counteractive play here for these drivers to get past on the inside is you got to pinch that car, try to make him to where he cannot get the run off the corner. But yeah, I see the 9 machine being a little bit more generous there, not trying to hold the 93 too hard.
But if you do that, you also run the risk of what we saw happen to Tim Williams, the possibility that you on the outside line are going to have the contact made to your left rear quarter panel and maybe get spun around into the outside wall.
Yeah, I mean, you got to decide how aggressive you really want to run here. It's still early. We're not even at the halfway marker, so letting people go is the time to do that now. It's later on in the race where we're probably not going to be seeing too much of this generous racing.
One driver that we saw up here in the top 10 early on, but he has not really made any forward strides here on this restart. That's the 10 of Evan Longacre, who coming into this race has got a streak of, I think, 6 straight top 5 finishes. This is the furthest back we've seen him all day long. What's going on with the 10?
Yeah, he just did not get the pit stop that he wanted, that last pit stop on that last run. He actually had some damage that he needed to repair, and it really has hurt the 10 machine a lot. He has not been able to hold these positions as well as he wants, and I think he's having some aero damage that's cost him greatly. But the 7 machine just came into the pits.
Yeah, Ty McWhirter making what I would assume would be an unscheduled stop, as he was running up inside of the top 5 just before coming to pit road, and we'll wait and see just how long this pit stop is, whether or not he may have brushed the wall and is coming to pit road for some damage repair or not.
Trying to get a look at the 7 machine, see if there's any real damage on it. Right now, I'm not seeing any. I think this could possibly be a scheduled stop for him. Maybe a different strategy compared to everyone else. I mean, short pitting here is a great strategy. It's able to gain a lot of time on these drivers. It's right now, you're already about a second, if not more than a second difference from what your best times were.
And it's interesting, too, because I go back to Tom Drayling when he was filling in for Joe Gibbs Racing's number 18 in a couple of races. He was one of those guys that would go outside the box in terms of pit strategy because he was a sub-driver. All he's trying to do is get the best possible finish there for that team. That might be exactly what Ty McWhirter's doing here tonight. He's trying to finish that 7 as high as he possibly can. It has no points coming into this race, so right now McWhirter's just trying to pull off a strategy that might put him in victory lane.
Yeah, and then we're coming closer and closer as we're about 10 laps away from the halfway marker of this race. So might as well come out here, try something a little bit different. And, you know, you got some tires to work with here. Might as well try something just in case we go green to the end.
Up right now between David Santini and Logan Helton about 0.6 of a second. It stayed that way just about the last 5 laps or so. But one thing I'm noticing, I remember week after week we talk about just how stable David Santini's car looks. That car has been sliding through the center and off the corner. That rear end seems like it wants to kick out.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way that Pocono works for these drivers. It doesn't really matter how stable you think your car is. It's going to get a little bit slick out there. I know we started the race off. It was 102 degrees out there for these drivers. It is cranked up to 109 degrees. So it's just going to get hotter and hotter as the day goes on. So you know it's just going to get slicker and slicker. These drivers during practice were working around about 95 to 98 degrees of heat on the track. Now with it being over 10 degrees more, I'm imagining the slickness is cranked up.
Of course, with it being open setup, you have the opportunity to try and make changes to compete with the ever-changing conditions of the racetrack, as we just had a change for 4th. Joseph Piscotto going to move by Cody Jordan for that spot. We also have a battle brewing for 6th, as Vincent Arthur has been working his way through the field. Just got Barry Stevens a couple of laps ago. Now looks to the inside of Chris Whitaker, trying to work his way closer to the top 5.
And then behind them, you've got Jeffrey Meyer getting by Barry Stevens, and Stevens doing a crossover and making the pass right back at him. So, Meyer thought he had it, wasn't able to get it done, and Tim Williams had a great show of that battle.
Definitely did, as there may have been a little bit of contact there between the right rear of Barry Stevens, the left front of Jeffrey Meyer. It was tough to tell there just on the camera angle whether the 38 there was contact or if he lifted as the 78 was sliding up into his lane trying to complete that pass. But so far, it looks like they're all going to keep it straight, so we continue on with Stevens 8th, Meyer in 9th, Tim Williams right now in the 10th position.
Yeah, I took a quick glance. There was a little bit of contact between the rear right bumper of Stevens and the front bumper of Meyer. I don't think it's going to hurt either one of those drivers. Just a little bit of contact, though.
In the back here, they are racing double wide. They were almost 3 wide for a brief moment. Jacob Shorba, who brought out the second caution, rear end damage and all, has been able to work his way up to 15th. That's Zachary Smith, Greg Newsom right behind him. Evan Longacre and John Jones also back there. They were side by side moments ago, and these 3 starting to close in on Brandon Andrews. So some battling outside of the top 10 here, and we saw a driver in Ty McWhirter come to pit road moments ago. We got Kevin Roy on pit road here in the 4, and I'm looking at some of these guys towards the rear of the field that we were just looking at. They could also be some drivers that might play the short pit strategy game.
Yeah, I mean, the short pit strategy is not a bad one to throw out. Looking at the different times right now compared to McWhirter, who pit 4 laps ago, compared to the drivers that have been out there for 10 laps longer, there's about a 7/10 difference. So with the way that McWhirter was running earlier, he was around 4th place, battling for the lead. Battling to get up to where the leaders were. I think you would probably cycle out to the lead at the moment, the way these guys are running.
So far, though, we've had 2 cautions. Both of them have not been for contact between other drivers. It's been solo car spins. So with that being said, a lot of our early cautions in the latter weeks were due to wrecks that were based off of contact. Some of these drivers, they have to kind of keep that in mind, that with how all these drivers seem to be having the loose conditions through the corners, there is the possibility we could have just a solo car spin, bring out a caution, and mess up all this strategy.
And also, just based off the pattern that we've been seeing all season long, we got those early cautions, and then we get a huge long green flag run. And for the rapid fired pizza series, we're used to seeing these guys go for a long run and then possibly have a caution there at the end that spices things up. But right now, I'm watching Longacre back here around 19th position, as that car just got really squirrely, and he was battling for 18th. Now he's going to drop all the way back to 20th place. That 10 machine, the woes continue for Longacre.
And also for Cody Jordan. He's now dropped to 7th place with Chris Whitaker getting around him. That 9 car, we saw him the last green flag run we had, that car go away on him on the long run. Seems like that is happening yet again. Another driver that currently is also struggling. Wow, was that Steven? Oh, gracious. I thought it was 78. That was a great save there, as he got wicked loose coming down the center of the Long Pond straightaway.
Coming off of turn number 2 and just got a little loose there. able to save that 78 machine. What a great save by Barry Stevens.
We talked about the momentum that he has had coming into this week. Great runs at both Iowa and last week at Chicagoland as he's watching this battle for 7th between Jeffrey Meyer and Cody Jordan, but he's still not in playoff contention yet. Obviously, a limited number of starts this season. This is his 9th start on the year. He comes into this race 84 points back from a cutoff line position, so he's got to keep it consistent.
Yeah, he really needs to stay consistent, and I think he'll be able to do so. I mean, he was making a charge forward until you saw that little bit of a slip up. And, the 78 machine, this might not be a track that he feels comfortable about, but still a great run here in the top 10.
And I would be worried about one driver here that, looking at the playoff standings, that we may not see be in playoff contention when we finish out the regular season, and that's Colleague Racing's Dalton Williamson. Last time we saw him in a car was back at the road course of Mid-Ohio. He has not been in the 61 since then. Right now in the projected playoff standings, he's only 40 points ahead of the cut line, 11th in the standings. So we haven't seen any drivers filling in that Colleague Racing entry at all. So I would kind of say that the door is open for guys like Brandon Andrew, Greg Newsom, Cody Jordan, Joshua Gordon, Barry Stevens to maybe stick their foot in and sneak out a playoff spot.
Yeah, sneaking it through would be the best option here if we don't see that 61 car be running any more positions. A pass for third place has been made. A very easy pass. Passes Joshua Piscota, gets by Joshua Gordon, and it's one of those things where that 16 machine, he was quick during practice, had not the best qualifying time, qualified back in 10th, but finally is back up here in the third place. Have to wait and see if he saved up his tires to make a late push there for second place.
Soda Guy Cup Series driver trying to reel in a couple of regular Rapid Fire Pizza National Series drivers as Piscota up to third and Vincent Arthur up to the 5th position. These guys are just out there trying to win right now as fill-in subs, and we'll see if it might work out for them. Both of those cars, those drivers out of Hendrick Motorsports, look like they've got some pretty good long-run speed.
Yeah, that's one thing that we're kind of used to seeing these guys do there in the Soda Guys series, is just having that long-run pace. They might lose to some of the drivers earlier on in the runs, but yeah, later on they start to make their climb forward here in the top 5. So good runs for these guys.
Ooh, car in the wall. Cody Jordan off of turn 2. This car pushed up. Barry Stevens was right on his left rear quarter panel, almost got into him, and now Stevens will look to make the pass for 8th place, but you kind of got the feeling it was just a matter of time with just how high that 9 was running off the corners. He finally did get the wall with that Chevrolet.
Yeah, that 9 car just is having issues here today, and we were seeing it earlier on, and he's going to have to work on it throughout the day here on this next stop to try to make this car just be able to turn a little bit better here on the later runs. It just isn't able to turn as well as everyone else is, as you're starting to see Tim Williams now getting by the 9 machine.
Like almost like the 9 got loose off the corner that time. We saw him tight and into the wall the last lap. We update about Ty McWhirter just based off of lap times between himself and race leader David Santini. He's been 10 laps on this set of tires, and he's still running about 3 to 4 tenths faster than the 99. We have to remember, he came to pit road from the 3rd position. So it would be interesting to see how things cycle out when Santini, Helton, Piscota, all those guys eventually come to pit road. But, you talked about the fact that these drivers can pretty much make it. I think the 2 car of Whitaker's on pit road now, but you said these guys can make it to halfway, which is now. Does the 7 have to make another pit stop, do you think, before all is said and done?
So he came in about 10 laps ago, and that's if they're running on the fuel window I think they're running on, I think he'll just make it. But it's a very close marker for that 7 machine, and I think he's one of those drivers just trying to make something happen. A risky play, but hey, better off trying it now when you have a chance and early in the race.
Absolutely. I mean, you know what? If it doesn't work out, put that in your notebook for tomorrow night's race of don't do this. And here comes Santini from the lead. He's going to pit here at the completion of lap 36. His teammate Helton, though, is going to stay out an extra lap.
Helton's going to go for that, trying to lead more laps than his teammate, bonus points. Trying to get the most laps led is what the 8 car is going to be going for here. And, him running out for another lap could it could hurt him in the long run. I feel like he should have been the one that short pitted over Santini, but maybe he feels more comfortable as Santini just overshot his pit stall, had to back up, losing time even though he short pitted.
That is going to be a huge mistake. You cannot afford that at a track where time is so important like Pocono. And, we saw Santini early on in the run, how his car was loose. To your point, with Helton staying out an extra lap, on the long run, his car looked like it was the one wanting to snap around through the corners. So I would have expected, like you said, of Helton maybe being one of the first BJ McLeod cars on pit road, as he will now hit pit lane here, completing lap 37.
Now, the number that we're going to have to watch out for is the differential between the 7 and the 99, as Whitaker had been out there a lot longer, almost 12 laps on those tires that were fresher than everyone else's. Now he'll be on the older tires, about 12 lap difference between himself and the 99, and it'll be even longer and longer with the difference of everyone else coming to the pits.
More drivers on pit road behind Logan Helton, including Joshua Gordon, Cody Jordan, Tim Williams, Greg Newsom. They are on pit lane now, completing what should be their final pit stop of the day if we don't have ourselves a caution fly in the final 30 or so laps of this race. You got Joseph Piscota going to stay out an extra lap here in the 16. Vincent Arthur in the 88. We'll probably be seeing them on pit road this next time around, I would assume. And the big question is, well, nope, they're going to stay out. The big question is just how far can these guys go on this tank? They have not been to pit road since we went green to start this race.
Hey, Seth, have you noticed that it's gotten a little bit darker out there for the drivers? Cloud cover over the track, and it is helping the track temp to decrease. So all these drivers that have been thinking, man, it's loose, the track temp's been getting warmer, it cooled off a ton. It's now down to 95 degrees for these drivers. That's a screeching halt for everyone out here.
Would that help McWhirter in terms of the tire wear that he would have here with these older tires?
Well, you're seeing it right now. It's doing absolutely nothing to stop Santini, as the 99 machine has closed up that only 2-second gap between himself and now is making the pass on the 7 that would have been, if pit cycles went through, would have been for the lead. Now is back in Santini's hands.
You saw Logan Helton back there, about maybe 10 car lengths behind that battle for what eventually would be the race lead when these pit stops cycle out, as Piscota continues to lead. How about Jay Queen? Now, I know right now the 90 machine's running in the 4th position due to pit strategy, but I've been watching him on the telemetry all race long, and he's either been just inside the top 10 or down around 11th or 12th, doing a great job there in that DGM racing entry.
Yeah, that 62 machine of Jay Queen started this race back in 21st position, now up to 4th just due to pit strategies and going on. But yeah, a great run on his part as he's being challenged by Roger Gregory in that 12 machine back in 5th place.
Gregory right now has been able to keep drivers that are trying to reel him in for that final playoff spot at bay. Brandon Andrews, Greg Newsom, none of them have been up around his vicinity. Other drivers that are further down the points, like Cody Jordan and Joshua Gordon, they've been running better than Roger Gregory, but they're about 50, 60 points back behind him for that final playoff position.
Now, we saw drivers coming in here during the halfway marker, and I know during some other leagues that we'll see drivers decide, hey, I'm going to split this up. We're going to come in at 20 laps, 40 laps, and then maybe at 60 to the end. That's just whenever you have drivers that go, these races that go for 80 laps. But with it being a 70-lap race, you can have these drivers pushing it a little bit longer and just focusing on the halfway marker and making it to the end, just due to the fact they feel comfortable with the tires and with how long these pits can be. It's not a bad run to try to just push it as far as you can.
With your point about the cloud cover, too, it might have actually changed up their strategy of deciding to stay out a couple laps longer. If we'd been in direct sunlight, we might have seen about half, maybe 3/4 of the drivers that are still out here on 25-lap old tires already have been to pit road.
Yeah, now it's down to 92 degrees, so we're almost in the 80s just because of this cloud cover, and also due to the fact that drivers have been cycling through the pits, so not as many drivers are heating up that track with your hot tires. And it's one of those things where the cloud cover really being a factor that we didn't think at the start of this race, but really has been changing it up in the middle of this race.
A lot of these guys, I think, right now might be hoping for a caution. John Jones back here in the 15, Kyle Payne in the 21. They've been running down just around the 18th, 19th position most of this race right now, up inside of the top 10 as they've stayed out, along with James Dowen back there in the 07, Evan Longacre in the 10 machine. 11 drivers still yet to come to pit road, actually make that 12 if you also count the 08 of Hilton Young, who currently is running last car on the lead lap in the 19th position.
Some cars that are running in the back after this pits that pitted early. I don't think we documented it. Zachary Smith, he was able to pit 4 laps ago. That 18 car, he needed to pit. He had some damage, got it repaired. We'll see if he's able to make a charge here for right now what would be 22nd place, where cars are running now, but the cycle is not done just yet. But Piscota right now, I mean, he is running about 2 seconds slower than what the 99 car is running, and that is something to be aware of and kind of nervous about.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Most of the lap times have been down in the mid 56s to low 56s. That last time by, your eventual race leader, David Santini, ran a 55.8. He's the only driver right now, and as soon as I say that, now his teammate Logan Helton's been able to do the same, but they're the only 2 drivers that have been able to break into at least the 55.8 bracket. The only other driver that's been in the 55s today, Ty McWhirter with the 55.9.
Yeah, you're seeing a slight drift from pacing for the 99, but that's just because he's got cars in front of him kind of being clogging him up from the way he could be pulling away from everyone else, or at least trying to gap himself even more from the drivers that have not pitted yet.
It's an Arthur from second place, going to bring that number 88 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet to pit road. Arthur's actually
Kyle
a filling
Payne
driver
coming
here
in
tonight. There's the 21. Wood Brothers Racing. Kyle Payne making his 4th start of the season.
Jeffrey Meyer
in the 38.
So you're starting to see drivers coming into the pits, getting some service done, but you got to be careful. Hit your marks. Don't be speeding in or speeding out or in the middle of pit road. It's a very long pit road, so you got to make sure you do not speed or slide those tires. The longer you're out there, the more that your tires are going to get more wear and tear on them as our leader comes in the pit now. So you got to make sure not to slide coming into your box.
Jay Queen in the 90 is going to stay out, and he, in his first start here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, is going to get his first lap led. How about that for the young rookie out of DGM Racing? Roger Gregory stays out as well. Looks like we've got about 6 drivers that are yet to pit, as John Jones on pit road now, Evan Longacre as well, following behind the 16 of Joseph Piscota.
Yeah, some of these drivers staying out, just hoping to get a lap led. I would imagine that that one machine was hoping more cars would pit, but if he stays out, the longer he does, that 99 machine is going to catch him quick. But everyone else that's out here, they're kind of just in cruise control at the moment, waiting until they need to pit, probably trying to get this laps out there as long as possible and get the wear and tear on the drivers that have already pit so they can possibly gain all that time back.
Roger Gregory going to come to pit road as Queen will stay out, lead an extra lap here. You know, you were talking about Zachary Smith making the pit stop and getting some damage repair. Well, his teammate Tim Williams, who we saw running up inside the top 10 before his near spin out of turn 1, he also had a long stay on pit road, and I almost wonder if the contact we saw when he almost spun out around that left rear wheel well, if maybe they had to spend a little time repairing that.
Well, there's been a slight contact here and there for that 19 machine, and it's just one of those things where, you know, your car's just not feeling comfortable, and yes, it's fast, but the looseness is what overcame him and putting that damage on the 19. But we are below 90 degrees here on this track because of the cloud cover. It's really helping these drivers out. This could help with tire wear as well as the looseness that some of these drivers are feeling earlier on in this race.
That's why we're seeing a lot of these drivers that have just been on pit road going out there in those fresh tires, laying down their fastest laps of the day. Caution! Kyle Payne in the 21 right on the front straightaway.
And just like that, Brandon Andrews pulls his car in right. I think he might have gotten it in right before pits close. but it's close for that 5 machine.
Jay Queen continue to lead here under caution, and now if you're guys like David Santini, who was able to work his way up to second, Helton, who worked his way up to fourth, they've been out there for 9 to 10 laps on these tires. What do you do?
Okay, I don't actually know what the limit of tires is. What's the tire limit that these
Four
guys are running?
sets.
4 sets? Oh, you're coming in. Some of these guys that have just pitted that are on maybe 3-lap-old tires, you can stay out. But I cannot, in my mind, think why Santini would, and also Helton, why they would stay out. They're up front in the top 5. Everyone else probably thinking about coming in. This really is hurting, some of the guys that just pitted now. But it's going to be interesting to see where these guys lead out. But I think this helps the 7 the most, who was going to have to pit probably one more time, and just because of where his tire wear was at. So that 7 machine of Ty McWhorter, this caution helps him out a ton.
Absolutely agree with you on that. Another driver I think that this helps also is Tim Williams. We talked about him having that long pit stop. See him, he was the first car 1 lap down behind Jay Queen, so he's going to be the free pass machine. And it'll be interesting to see here too. I mean, I'm looking at a couple of guys like Evan Longacre, Greg Newsom. Longacre has been out there for 2 laps on his tires. Greg Newsom 9 laps on his tires. If, to your point, Santini, Helton, all those guys do come to pit road, we may end up seeing guys like Longacre and Newsom have to take the wave around to get themselves back on the lead lap.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see the 16, possibly the 88 staying out, as these drivers are preparing to see if they have to come to the pits or not. But those are the 2 drivers that I have in my mind that won't come in. But we know for sure Queen should be coming into the pits.
We're going to stay on these guys. We will go back and see what happened to Kyle Payne on the front straightaway to bring out this 3rd caution. But the only lead change we really had today outside of green flag pit stops was because of pit road. Back when everyone ended up coming to pit road under the 2nd caution, when Santini was able to beat his teammate Helton off the pit lane to that commitment line. So we're going to keep it here and see if maybe we'll have ourselves another lead change, or at least a potential battle for the race lead here with this pit stop.
16 car stays out on the track, as well as Shorba, who is staying out to lead that lap, get that bonus point, and then pit. So the 1 machine just coming in for that strategy, but the 16 machine staying out. Bold move on his part, but expected.
Like maybe Helton had to check up a little bit heading to his box. Santini looked like he was pretty smooth. And of course, as well, Helton had Shorba between himself and Santini coming to pit road, as Santini's going to win the battle off pit lane. It's going to be close for second. Nope, not really that close. Jay Queen's actually going to win it for second place, followed by Helton, Joshua Gordon, and Chris Whitaker. To your point, Shorba's going to stay out and lead the extra lap, but the drivers that strategize to stay out, Piscota, Meyer, and Roger Gregory, who, let's not forget, is that cutoff line driver, so he's got a lot to lose here with this strategy. Very interesting that those 3, they're going to try and see if they can hold off the 99, but all of them between 3 to 5 lap old tires.
I mean, Piscota is in this position, right, where he might as well. He's already pit. If he pits now, he'll be back around 6th, 7th position. So pitting is staying out. He's got some of the fresher tires compared to everyone else. So let's stay out just in case more people decide to stay out with him. Meyer, I'm very interested on him staying out. That's all for position for him as well as Gregory. These are guys that have all pit within 2 to 3 laps before that caution. So not a lot of wear on those tires, but still 3 laps, a big difference. But positioning wise, I think it's a good move.
We saw what happened to Kyle Payne coming off turn 3 and onto the straightaway. Very difficult to tell what happened there, as that car just kept turning to the right up into the wall. Eventually, that final hit with the right front sent it down to the inside wall, and a lot of front end damage sustained on that Wood Brothers Ford Mustang. It looked like he was having some connection problems. I don't know if that came into play or not, but that's the end result, as you see the whole front end of that car completely exposed.
Yeah, heavy damage for him, as well for damage on the 15 machine of John Jones there, who scraped the wall initially in front of Payne, and then Payne just got stuck on the wall, hitting it multiple times, and you saw him spinning around there on that replay as the cars are now stacking up, looking like we're going to be going down this lap. So it's going to be an interesting restart as, once again, two drivers that were up in the lead, no longer up there now.
Yeah, it's going to be Helton, going to be starting back in 6th. And starting just in front of him in 4th is going to be David Santini. Front row going to be Camaros as the Supras have dominated the day so far. Piscota on the bottom, Jeffrey Meyer up top, then Roger Gregory's Ford and David Santini's Toyota. Rest of your top 10, it's going to be Jay Queen in 5th, Logan Helton 6th, 7th is going to be Joshua Gordon, followed by Barry Stevens, Vincent Arthur, and that, I believe, is the completion of your top 10. Nope, I missed Chris Whitaker. Sorry, they're going to be restarting in the 8th position. Interesting that two drivers that we talked about possibly taking the wave around, they did not. They came to pit road, that being Evan Longacre and Greg Newsom. So they will still remain one lap down and have to battle it out for the free pass spot should we get another caution here in the final 20 laps of this race. And we're going to listen to these drivers get up through the gears as we're going to go inside the cockpit of the 99 of David Santini and see if he can make some early moves to get from 4th back up to the race lead as the pace car hits pit road. It's like Meyer did not get the best jump there. That actually holds up Santini on that outside line.
Not able to make any bold moves here, but Santini thinking about dipping it down low, not so, as they'll be staying around behind Gregory. But here's the more interesting part here, right, is on every restart, we have not seen the leader been passed while we're under green. It's all been under pit stops. Will we see the 16 car be able to hold off the newer tires behind him?
And also, if Santini has a car strong enough to get up to Piscota, is this the time for Logan Helton to strike and try and bypass that 9 machine? Helton started on the pole as someone was way up the track back there. I think that was Chris Whitaker, who was 3 wide, not only in turn 1, but over in turn 2, and drops all the way back to 13th.
Yeah, I mean, we've got ourselves Santini trying to prowl up and possibly able to make the pass for 2nd, but it's from 7th on back there. You're starting to see cars all stringled out and not sure where they're going to make passes, as that's making Warder making the pass on the inside, making some bold moves all over the place.
Yeah, they were 3 wide off of turn 3 as James Dowen, the 07, almost got the wall. That checked everybody up behind him. Several drivers darting to the inside, trying to make evasive moves as the 07 lost a lot of momentum off the final corner.
Everyone still staying single file with the 16 car, now up to a 7/10 lead on the 99 machine. And Piscota able to really hold off at the moment, but he's losing ground as the fresher tires are starting to come in and running down the 16 machine.
Of course, here with these long straightaways, if someone gets a run on you off the corner and gets to your left rear, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do into the following turn, as there you see the gap has closed up visibly between Piscota and David Santini. He's bringing Logan Helton along with him, and Jeffrey Meyer on those older tires doing a good job hanging here with 2nd and 3rd place as well.
Tim Williams had to drift all the way back, and now he's making some big passes. They're back here in 14th position. They were 3 wide entering turn number 1. Able to stay strong now, but Tim Williams up to 14th place. I mean, we've been documenting his struggles all day. He's still trying to make a late charge forward, and you're starting to see the track a lot brighter. The cloud cover is gone. That means the track is going to heat up. All of those changes that we were talking about earlier all dwindled away now, as this track is just changing the drivers on a snap of a finger.
Absolutely, as now Tim Williams trying to reel in James Dowen. That 3 wide move he made into turn 1 was not for position. He was passing 2 lap machines in Evan Longacre and Greg Newsom. Now this is going to be for a spot, as he's going to close in on the 07 coming out of turn number 3. Up ahead of them, Cody Jordan, Chris Whitaker. They're going to go side by side. That is for 11th. And even further up towards the front, Barry Stevens going to get by Roger Gregory on those older tires, move the 78 up into the top 5.
Three BJ McLeod guys up in the top 5. I mean, it feels like we talk about this for a long time, almost every week it seems like. Barry Stevens able to make that pass, but here comes Gordon, who we've been seeing him getting passed by people. Now he wants to be the one being attacking and aggressive.
And you saw right there, Joseph Piscota, a run was made by Logan Helton down the Long Pond straightaway. Piscota through the block. You're going to see that a lot here today as well, especially as these laps start to tick away. And look at Logan Helton taking advantage of the fact Santini lost the momentum. He sticks his nose to the inside, looking to try and take second away.
If Logan Helton's able to get by Santini, he's got a chance on the 16 car, but he was not able to make the pass on that last restart. Will he be able to do it with being a car in front of him blocking the 99 machine and really giving an opening as you're seeing Santini on the outside trying to make a power move?
Let's see if he can get back to the throttle before they get to the exit of turn 1. His car's going to push up quite a bit. He keeps it in the throttle though. Almost brushed the wall, and his teammate Helton's up there to help him. They're trying to draft down the straightaway.
If they weren't teammates, I would expect the 8 machine not to be helping so much for the 99, but you got to help your teammate out to try to get up front and maybe make a move here. But you're seeing that's an amazing move here by the 16 car, able to hold on as long as he did. But coming into turn number 3, not able to hold on to the lead anymore, back to second, and possibly could be dropping back to third with these fresher tires, really coming to both the 99 and the 8.
Now that Santini has cleared Piscota, you can bet Logan Helton's going to be in ultra-aggressive mode here, almost in panic mode, realizing I got to get around this 16 machine because if I don't, I'm going to lose touch with my teammate. And that was his problem back in the last green flag run. He just could not close up the gap that was between himself and Santini.
And it's kind of a lost cause at this point. If he was not able to stay side by side with his teammate before the pass for the lead was made, he's not going to be able to do it from here. It seems like Santini is the one who's able to save his tires a lot better than Helton. And we've been seeing it, just the pattern throughout the season. And that has been it. The 99 just able to save tires, but we're seeing Helton trying to make the pass, just not able to do it there. Maybe here into turn number 3.
Now Joseph Piscota has a 4-lap difference between his tires and the tires of the 2 Supras in front and behind him. Santini starting to pull away little by little. I think the gap between Santini and Helton back on the last green flag run was hovering between half a second to 0.6. That's what it's at right now between the two, but they've got the 16 in between them.
14 laps to go, and right now Barry Stevens able to make the pass here on Vincent Arthur to 4th place. So now you got the 3 VJ McLeods in 2nd through 4th. I was looking back, some cars were making some pretty bold moves back here around 18th position, where you're seeing Longacre and Smith right on each other's bumpers.
That is for position. That would be for the free pass spot should we get a caution here in these final 14 laps. Right now, Smith in possession of it. Longacre trying to take it. Further back, there may have been some contact there. I believe that was Greg Newsom with a little bit of contact with the left front to the right rear of the 07 of James Dowen. Hard to tell if there was contact or not, but it certainly looked like it just off in the distance of our camera view.
James Allen on the lead lap in 16th, Greg Newsom in 20th, 1 lap down. So that is not for position, as Newsom now pulling his car to the inside into pit road. Maybe he felt like there was too much contact there. He needs to come in. That 39 machine not having a great day. Going to be losing even more positions after him coming in pits.
Newsom, who came into this race 45 points behind the cut line, not going to be gaining any here today, as he was already 1 lap down and may fall a 2nd lap down depending on how long this pit stop's going to be. Right now running 22nd of the 23 cars still out there. This has been some fun battling back here just inside the top 10. Roger Gregory, Ty McWhirter, Chris Whitaker, they've been mixing it up pretty good. Just outside the top 10, Cody Jordan and Tim Williams battling for that 12th spot.
Yeah, Tim Williams actually almost ran right through the 9 machine, got loose off of turn number 1, and then gathered it back up and able to make the pass on the short shoot. So Tim Williams trying to make a hard charge to at least get a top 10 finish after all of the going back and forth that he's had all race long.
Logan Helton has finally gotten to the inside of Joseph Piscota into turn 1. Will complete the pass. Now tries to set his sights on David Santini, but the gap is about 0.7 of a second between himself and his teammate. And here comes Piscota back to the inside, crossing over for 2nd place.
Not saying he's done. It's a 16 machine, able to get side by side as they're going through turn number 2, and we'll get it still side by side there. But then drifting back, not able to get the run off the corner, but a bold crossover move by Piscota.
That's got to be so frustrating for Logan Helton, who thought, all right, that task is done. I can set my priorities on the 99 now. Oh, wait, priorities changed. The 16 is back, and that actually lost him another 2/10 to his teammate Santini. The gap now about 9/10 of a second.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if Helton doesn't get challenged by Piscota, it looks like he's been saving his tires in some way and fashion, as he has been able to gain just a 10th since he's made this pass, but through the middle of the corner number 1, losing that time. It just seems like on the straightaways, the Zate machine has the better straightaway speed, but in the corners, it's where he's losing the time to Santini.
Place battle going on. Vincent Arthur trying to hold off Joshua Gordon, who snakes it down the straightaway there, looking low, looking high, trying to figure out if there's a place for him to be able to go. Not able to do anything just yet out of turn 2. He'll try and get the run. Barry Stevens right there in the 78. You know, it's interesting. You were talking about how Stevens is working his way up here for maybe a possibility of having all 3 of the BJ McLeod cars up in the top 5 again. Whoa, Helton really loose off of 3. That was a great save, but again, going to lose him more time. But if we go back to, I believe it was Michigan, it was a 1-2-3 finish for BJ McLeod Motorsports. When we talked to Santini last week at Chicagoland, he really felt that if Logan Helton had been in that race, it could have been a 1-2-3 finish. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This team has got it together.
Yeah, they have been the team to beat for the past couple of weeks and almost all season long, and I'm not surprised to see it as the battle for 4th continues on with the 88 machine of Vincent Arthur and Joshua Gordon still side by side with lap traffic in front of him.
That is the 21 of Kyle Payne getting in the way, and that might have cost Vincent Arthur that 4th position as he was trapped on the outside line. Payne did everything he could to stay out of the way, but even at a track as wide as Pocono, it's not that easy because there's not a whole heck of a lot of grip.
Contact made back in 8th place where you got Whitaker and Meyer coming into turn number 3. Lap traffic once again in the way, causing contact between those two. Able to keep it straight, though. Well, that could have been a very disastrous moment for both these drivers in the top 10.
Could have made things very interesting if we had gotten a caution here under 10 laps to go. As now McWhirter are going to go to the inside of Whitaker. That's a battle for 8th place, and ooh, that got awfully close going into turn 1 between those Chevrolets.
Yeah, you're just starting to see the cars that had issues or continuing to have issues. They're drifting up even higher and higher, like we were seeing Cody Jordan have earlier on in these runs. And you're just starting to see...
Oh, my goodness! Logan Helton again slideways, this time off of turn 2. Everything's going wrong for him right now. He's been sideways off of 3, sideways off of 2. I think Chris Whitaker just had a moment as well.
Whitaker did have a moment. He got a little bit loose, well as Gregory. Both of those drivers having slight issues. As it started off with Whitaker, and then he got a ball causing Gregory to go into the inside, get a little bit loose, and luckily both drivers able to continue going, but Whitaker heavy damage on that left side.
And I'll tell you what, we've had 3 cautions in this race. All 3 have been for solo car incidents. We've had 3...
Whoa! Jeffrey Meyer and Tim Williams make contact in turn number 1.
I mean, I'm getting the feeling here we may not have seen our last caution of the day. I'm just saying.
I mean, with how these guys are running, the track is heating up so much. It's up to 112 degrees. Last time we talked about it, it was less than 90, and that was when they were able to pit. So you got to imagine these adjustments these drivers made. It is not helping anymore. Tim Williams gets into more.
And there goes a car. Tony Jordan into the wall. Whitaker hard as well.
Caution is out.
With about 7 laps to go when we get to the stripe, the caution flies. We were about 15 laps into that run, and a couple drivers that were up inside of the top 10 bring out this 4th caution.
And that's just one of those things of tires were just fading away. Aggressiveness was there. We were less than 10 laps to go. You had to make your move, and this was battling around 10th position for these guys. It's just one of those things where you're trying to get the best position you can, but the car just fades away from these guys.
Everything we were seeing in those last 3 laps, it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when. And that was the answer right there. I mean, we probably should have had the caution out 3 other times before that, but these drivers did a great job of saving it and keeping their cars straight. And From what I saw, it almost looked like that wreck was due to a checkup from an incident up ahead of him, that earlier contact between Tim Williams and Jeffrey Meyer. We'll go back and look at that in depth in just a moment, but decisions have to be made, Sam. You talked about with the 4 sets that more than likely they were all going to come to pit road the last caution. I think all these drivers still have a set at their disposal. Do we see them pit here when we get a restart, which will more than likely be around, I would say, 4 laps to go?
Yeah, I'm expecting to see all these drivers come into the pits. They've got the tires to use it. Also, they've been out there for 15 laps. If you don't come in, you're kind of putting yourself in a tough situation to hold off everyone else. Yes, it's going to be only about 3 laps to possibly an inside. I think it's going to be might be an inside the laps green white checkered here, as all the drivers coming into the pits now. A track position is not something that you're really fighting for at this point, because you'll just be losing all the time that you possibly would be gaining by staying out.
Hilton thought about it, but then made the late dive, really late dive onto pit road there. And I'm looking here in terms of how these drivers entered pit road. You talked about how impressive it was how Joseph Piscotto was able to hang on and battle for the race lead and then eventually for second with Helton with those older tires. Now he's on a level playing field tire-wise. Be interesting to see if he plays spoiler with these BJ McLeod Supras.
It's all been about pit road. Who gets out of the pits better and cleaner here? And Santini, once again, able to get out much faster. And Piscotto now in third, and Gordon in fourth, and Arthur in fifth. So a great pit strategies for all those drivers. No one's going to be coming in for 2 tires, but it looks like Cody Jordan, Meyer, as well as Whitaker all had to stay into the pits, still getting repairs done after that contact.
And we also followed during that green flag run the battle for the free pass position between the 18 of York and the 10. I'm sorry, make that the 18 of Smith rather, and the 10 of Longacre. And it was Zachary Smith who is going to be the free recipient of the free pass here. He will restart in 18th when we eventually go back green. Let's go and look and see what happened, that incident off of turn number 2 for our 4th caution of the day.
Yeah, we'll be seeing York tomorrow for the Soda guys racing here at Pocono again. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. Same time as it was for today, and probably for 80 laps tomorrow.
Here it was going into turn 2, and watch up ahead there, the 19 and 38. They're going to make contact right there. And it looks like Cody Jordan thought they might be coming back down the track. He turned low to avoid. And unfortunately for him, Chris Whitaker was already to his left rear quarter panel.
Yeah, it was something that was culminating after 3 laps of hard racing, hard contact being made all around. And that was just a cluster of 5-6 cars that had been around for, like I said, those 3 laps of just chaos that was going around. So not surprised that the caution came out. I'm mainly surprised in the fact that they were able to stay as clean as they were for as long as they were.
Absolutely. I mean, we thought maybe Logan Helton was going to go around. We thought maybe Jeffrey Meyer was going to go around. A lot of candidates we thought might be bringing out this caution. And obviously, as we see here, it was Cody Jordan and Whitaker in the 2, bringing out this yellow flag, setting us up for what's going to be a shootout here today at Pocono. And I mean, we saw how aggressive these drivers were racing in the early portions of the day. At that point, a checkered flag wasn't really on the line just yet. Now it is. We saw 3 wide on restarts. Are we going to see it again? But this time up towards the front of the field.
Up front, it's going to be a little bit harder to see. I think around that 6th to 8th place. So it is where we might be seeing some cars make some bold moves. So around where we see the 88 of Arthur and Queen, I think that's when we're going to see those drivers possibly trying to make it 3 wide in turn number 1 and see who's going to be the car to back out. I mean, it's going to be 4 laps to figure out. Actually, looking back, I think the lights are still on. So we were going to be going
they just
for
came
another,
back on.
So we're going to be going for another pace round for these drivers. So 3 laps to go possibly if the lights go off for this time. And it's going to be interesting to see how this race finishes, as the less laps that these drivers have, the more aggressive we're going to see them on this restart.
And we have to remember as well the fact that if we do not get back to the white flag here, under regulation and a caution comes out, these drivers would have to get ready for an overtime caution, at least one. And if we end up having that caution come out, then the question's asked again, do these drivers come to pit road? Now, I would assume if we only get maybe 1 or 2 laps on the tires here, since it's so close to the end, you're not going to see anybody up inside of the top 5, maybe even as far back as the top 10 come to pit road. But we saw the difference between 4-lap older tires as opposed to fresh tires. Some of those guys, 10th place on back, we may see them duck to pit road if we get another late yellow before we get to the white flag here.
So I went back to see what caused us to have this second lap for us to go around for these drivers. It was because of the 9 of Cody Jordan. He got the repairs, felt like his car was good enough to go out, drove out right when he left pit road. His engine exploded on him, and he killed his car coming off of, it finally came to a stop off of turn number 1. And so once he towed his car back, iRacing decided it needed to have another restart. Looking at some other penalties going out there, it looks like an EOL hit for Kyle Payne after some incidents that happened right before that last caution.
Looks like some other drivers also decided to take waiver rounds here, with us being just a minute number of laps away from the finish. Kevin Roy, Evan Longacre, Jacob Shorba, Greg Newsom, and Kyle Payne. I'm sorry, Kyle Payne did not, but those drivers I mentioned did take the waiver round. Zachary Smith would have been the recipient of the free pass. However, he instead took a waiver round, did not come to pit road. So I'm not certain why that happened, as he would have been allowed to pit with the leaders and take on 4 fresh tires. He's out there now on 18-lap old tires, unless there was someone that got the free pass that I didn't see there under this yellow, but I thought he was the free pass car. But here we go, getting ready for 3 laps to go, possibly here to finish out at Pocono.
3 laps to go when you know it's going to be crazy. We're seeing it in the back of cars going 3 wide or more. Will we see it up front as the pace car is getting ready to pull off, and we're going to be going green with 3 laps to go.
Santini gonna get a good jump there, about a car length ahead as they cross the line. It's gonna be side by side for second between Pascoda and Helton, who had a dogfight on the last green flag run.
The 3 fastest cars during practice are the 3 cars up front, and you're seeing 3 wide action back around 10th place, where you're starting to see a lot of cars deciding it's time to make some moves and starting around where Jay Queen is, but now side-by-side action.
Oh no! What a save, and almost got hooked by Barry Stevens. How did they keep that straight?
I have no idea, but Pascoda now side-by-side for second. It's not blowing up there, but it's a hornet's nest from about Jay Canner. That's about 8 up back, and then they go around.
Brandon Andrews up into the wall as well. I believe Queen in the 90 was also in the middle of
Longacre
that.
into the wall. Hard contact for him. Also getting into Newsom. You just had a feeling.
6 cars. Tried it 3 wide into turn 1. They tried it 3 wide into turn 2. Something was going to have to give.
It looks like the 5 car just came in with so much speed. I wasn't able to hold his spot, and
90 looked like he came in pretty hot as well. Like his car pushed up the track. I don't know if he got help or not.
He got hit by the 5 of Andrews. I don't know if Andrews got any help. I know there was a car behind him. That's just the starting point of this. I mean, you got cars trying to go 2, 3 wide into turn number 2, and that's not going to work.
And so many drivers have different ways that they approach these corners. We talked about the fact that, you know, turn 1 is labeled after a speedway, turn 2 after a super speedway, turn 3 after a short track. Different drivers have different ways that they go into the corners at those particular tracks, and unfortunately, when things are as stacked up as they are, and let's also mention the fact that things were stacked up because of the Vincent Arthur Barry Stevens incident off of turn 1. With drivers having different braking zones, someone's going to possibly run over somebody else.
Yeah, it was about to happen. It's just one of those things where these cars, and we were seeing the tension building up even on older tires, and even now, and you know, you got to throw it to also the track and how much it has changed throughout this race. It is now part of the track is covered in cloud, the other part isn't. We're less than 100 degrees on track temperature at 99 degrees, and you know, it's still slick out there, but when we were at around 89 degrees, it wasn't as slick, and then it cranked up to 112 degrees, and that was the last adjustments that a lot of these drivers have made, was around that 112. Expecting a lot of drivers to come into the pits just due to damage, but these top 6 to possibly top 10 drivers, I don't expect them coming in.
So what about anybody back behind that may not have gotten involved because
Ooh.
there's 4 to 5 laps on these tires right now.
16th on back, all came into the pits. Everyone else in front of them staying out. And I'm surprised by that because I know for a fact, just looking back, ninth on back, almost all of them had some type of damage due to that wreck. I mean, Tim Williams, he was in the middle of this thing. Jeffrey Meyer was in this as well. Downing was in it in some way. Shorba also in it. So it's just like you look through the list of cars that stayed out, you're kind of shocked that they stayed out.
All depends on the severity of the contact that was made for them, I guess. Feel that it's able to continue. They don't want to give up those positions. One driver that did come to pit road that I did not see get collected up in the incident, maybe you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, was the 2 of Chris Whitaker. I saw he was on pit road, so he might be one of those guys rolling the dice here with the fresh tires to maybe make a late race charge.
I believe Whitaker was involved. He's got some heavy back end damage on that 2 machine, so I believe he was involved in some way during that accident.
When that caution came out, Joseph Piscotto was ahead of Logan Helton for second place, so now he's going to be on the outside of the front row with Santini. Santini's going to have his teammate Helton behind him in third place now, with Joshua Gordon, Ty McWhirter the top 5, then Barry Stevens, Roger Gregory, Jay Queen, John Jones, and Tim Williams the top 10. And we know that Roger Gregory and Jay Queen, 7th and 8th, got a piece of that incident. Gregory was sideways and saved it. Jay Queen was also sideways after the hit from Barry Andrews.
It's just one of those things where yes, they're stacking up. This is the first attempt of 3 for the gray and white checkered, and you gotta wonder, we've got some new faces up here in the top 10. How are they gonna feel, and how strong are their cars? I mean, I know a lot of these machines caught up in that last incident, and I know a lot of these cars have been dealing with hitting the wall and having some damage. I mean, John Jones in that 15 machine, he started 9th, and that's a place that we haven't seen him all race, and he's been in the pits a lot today because of earlier damage. He has a chance to stay up here in the top 10, and Tim Williams, I know he was involved in that last wreck, got spun around, had some front edge and side damage. He's now in the top 10, so it's interesting to see some new faces in the top 10. Can they hold on?
You mentioned drivers took the wave around there under the last caution. This caution helps to keep them on the lead lap, but both Jacob Shorba and Evan Longacre both sustained damage because of it. But for guys like Kevin Roy, Greg Newsom, who had a great avoidance there, Zachary Smith, they were able to stay on the lead lap now, and as far as I'm aware, did not get pieces of the wreck. So we'll see if they can make any late charges, maybe up inside of the top 10. And the cloud cover is back again here, Sam. You talked how the track was cooling down. This is going to cool it down even more. More grip means these drivers are going to be more aggressive with their moves on this first green white checker.
More grip, but when they made those last adjustments, the track was pretty warm. So, these adjustments, they might have helped. At the same time, they could have hurt these cars. I know the BJ McLeod guys, they're feeling confident. They're up there in the top 3 with your leader being Santini, and in third is Logan Helton. As they're going to be in line with one another, they can try to help each other out here on this restart.
Look at your top 5 right now. Santini, 6 wins. Logan Helton, 2 wins. Fill-in drivers with McWhirter and Piscotto. The guy that's got the most to lose right now, that 93 of Joshua Gordon, 17th in the playoff points, looking for his first win of the season. Green flags in the air. First attempt at a green-white checker.
Santini gets a fantastic start, but side-by-side action for second, and on the way back, you got to know some cars are going to be throwing it into 3 wide. Who's going to be the driver to really change it up? And looking like it's all in the back, or top 10, all staying clean. Still side-by-side action for second.
A couple of guys peaked 3 wide, including Jacob Shorba, but it looked like everyone was double wide going into turn 1 all the way through the field. As McWhirter gets a little loose there off of turn 1, battling side-by-side with Barry Stevens. They're still side-by-side, though, between Helton and Piscotto down the Long Pond straightaway.
And it's only given time to Santini to pull away, as now we're seeing Helton able to make the pass, but we know that's crossover move. Here it comes by the 16. He's been doing it every single time. And looking back, I think Barry Stevens might have gotten a little bit out of shape there out of 2, able to keep it going, though. That side-by-side for second continues as we're coming to the white flag.
Coming to the white flag, so far green. As long as the leader has the white flag waving, we will race back to the checkers, and Santini will hit the line. So we are official here. We're going back to the checkered flag. Battle is for the second position, going on about 7/10 behind the leader in the 99.
If you go back to 13th on back, it's a hornet's nest, but it looking like that 16 car able to make the pass and making it clean, as now he's up to second.
Oh, Tim Williams contact there between himself and James down the 07. They keep it straight. That's the hornet's nest you were talking about 7, 8, 9 cars within about a 2/10 of a second of each other.
Now coming down the short chute, it's got to be Santini looking clean. As the 99 machine coming to corner number 3 and coming to the checkered flag.
Looking for win number 7 on the season, win number 4 in a row. It'd be the second time this season he has won 4 straight races, and it's going to complete here today as he'll take the checkered flag at the tricky triangle of Pocono.
Santini gets the pass there. It's going to be the 8 machine. It's the 8 machine of Helton was not able to make the pass. Going to be staying there in third, but Piscota, coming in to try this series out, gets that second position.
It's hard to tell, but there might have been a little contact made after the crossing of the start-finish line between Helton in the 8 and Piscota in the 16. Maybe a little frustration on the part of the 8 car.
Could have been that celebratory little bump for the teammates.
We'll see if Felton's got anything to say about it in the post-race interviews. He brings it home third. Joshua Gordon there in fourth. We'll look at the rest of the results here. And a couple of guys that really needed the good runs got them here today. And the 2 of them that I'm seeing that stand out are 4th and 5th place. Gordon came into this race 17th in the playoff points, 69 points back from a playoff position. So another good run for that car out of RSS Racing. But Roger Gregory, 5th place run for the guy that came into this race in the final playoff spot. Good run for the Penske Racing Ford Mustang.
Yeah, a great run on his part. I'm looking back at some of the racing coming off of turn number 3. It was some mad dashes of a lot of cars in the back of the field, making a lot of 3 wide moves there in corner number 3. We usually don't see that very often.
Barry Stevens, his good runs continue in 6th as David Santini and Logan Helton doing some burnouts on the front straightaway. Ty McWhirter in fill-in duty. He's going to be 7th. Jay Queen, what a great debut here for him in that 90 machine. He'll finish in 8th. John Jones, we don't see him up inside the top 10 very often. He's going to bring it home in 9th. And Jeffrey Meyer going to complete the top 10 in the 38 machine. And we look here at the rest of the finishing results and some of the guys that we maybe were expecting to see have good runs today, namely Evan Longacre, Chris Whitaker. Some late race woes for them, finishing back in 19th and 20th.
Yeah, they showed a lot of promise early on in this race in the first couple of laps, but ever since that first caution came out, it really did not look good for the 10 machine. He hit the wall too hard during the green flag runs, and it just set him back so far that he was not able to redeem himself.
22 cars finished the race, 21 of them on the lead lap. Cody Jordan and Bill Dolph were the only 2 drivers that finished this race behind the wall. As we're going to get some interviews here with our top 3 finishers, and let's kick things off with third place runner Logan Helton starting from the pole position and finishing in the podium here today. And Logan, it looked like it was really pretty even between you and the 99, but that 16 kind of playing spoiler there. If you'd been able to kind of keep Piscota off of your back and be able to pass him earlier on the restart before last, did you have anything for your teammate?
I believe I did, but he was just really easy with the car. I was kind of wrestling it, like not in a bad way, just I was not as smooth as he was, but it would have been close if I was able to get by the 16.
You talk about wrestling it. We saw before that last caution came out, you slid through turn 2, you slid coming out of turn 3. Was that thing just a handful in general, or were you pushing as hard as you could trying to close the gap up between yourself and Santini?
The car, well, first the track itself just makes you have to do that to the car, but it also doesn't help that I was trying to push it, trying to catch up to him. But yeah, it's just a mix of both. And also, whenever you're behind someone, the dirty air just plays a big factor. Not necessarily understeer, but like you don't get as much grip that you want to have in the rear end. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, Logan, it seemed like the leader, it was so difficult just to make any type of passes on the leaders at all. And We saw that earlier in the run and even at the end there. Was there anything that you really could have done to make the pass quicker on the 16 to possibly make a run there?
If maybe if I just reacted better to the start, I kind of like got close to David on the restart there, kind of backed off a little bit, but the second I backed off, he went, so I lost that much speed. Like even if it wasn't a lot, it would have totally helped if I was side by side with him.
Logan, we talked about at the top of the program how Pocono is 3 different corners, 3 different degrees of banking, and we talked about this being an open setup league. From a driver's standpoint of view, how difficult is it to set up a car to be good in all 3 different corners?
Uh, I just believe that you got to throw one away. You got to throw one corner away because they're all so different. So basically, all of us in BJ McLeod pretty much set it up for 2 and 3 because turn one's got the most banking, is probably the easiest to just adjust to. But 2 and 3 were like the two that really mattered, we think, because it didn't have as much banking as one.
Well, obviously, the momentum continues for you. You've had 2 wins on the season. You're continuing to rack up points, continuing to rack up playoff points. You led quite a number of laps today. You started on the pole position. So the momentum's still there, and we've got some more wild card tracks coming up in the next few weeks, including next week when we're going to be going to the Indianapolis road course. We saw how good you were when we were at Mid-Ohio. So obviously, we're looking to see you as one of the favorites there. But for now, Logan, we're going to let you do some shout outs.
Yeah, first thanks my team at BJ McLeod Motorsports with Barry Stevens and David Santini, some really good teammates to work with. Also, my own sponsors with RGC Media, East Bay Landscaping, LKH Graphics, and also the sponsors of the league that are Rapid Fire Pizza, Jones Racing Setups, Shorebirds Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. Just to you guys for putting on the broadcast and all that stuff, and my friends and family for watching.
That's Logan Helton. He brings it home in the 3rd position after starting the pole here today at Pocono. Congrats on a great run. We look forward to talking to you next week when we get to the road course configuration of Indianapolis.
Thank you.
And let's get our 2nd place finisher. We're used to seeing him driving the number 9 Napa Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports over in the Soda Guys Cup Series, but here this evening doing the fill-in duties for Carson Bowers over at Colleague Racing. That's Joseph Piscotta, and you bring it home 2nd place here today. We saw you really have a strong car in those last 2 green flag runs. Looks like you were having some fun out there.
Yeah, it was. It's been a long time. I thought I was never going to be able to talk to you guys. Finished 4th so many times. So, but yeah, we had a really good long run car. They just had us on short run, and we did some adjustments there in the green white checkers to try to make it a short run car. I think maybe if we had like another lap or another trot, we could have, because it really worked. But we had a really good long run car. But it was a really good race, and I'm glad I got the sub in, but for some experience for tomorrow. But yeah, it was fun.
Talk about that experience for tomorrow. I know obviously there's probably a huge difference between the Xfinity car and the Cup car in the way that it's set up and everything, but I mean, we had a lot of weather changes here today. There was a lot of strategy in terms of taking tires or taking track position. Is there anything you were able to put in your notebook that you're going to apply to tomorrow's Cup Series race?
Yeah, I'm thinking we're probably going to have to, it's like, keep the right rear on it because of shifting. I know in the Cup car you don't shift immediately, but you may on a longer run, so that really has to go along in it. I'm not the greatest Pocono driver, so I wanted to do some practice, and I learned a lot. So we're definitely going to take some notes and keep the right sides on her, and hopefully have a good performance tomorrow.
Yeah, Joseph. I mean, this race, it looked like it was so hard to pass people. You started off in 10th and seemed like you were the only car that was able to make any moves forward. How was it passing cars here today?
It was pretty tough. It's a lot more tough than I thought it was going to be. I think the people on the outside can really get to the throttle more, especially coming off that little downhill, going down the back straightaway or whatever it's called. It kind of helps them keep it there. And the tunnel turn is just so treacherous and it was so loose today. So it was really about who had bigger guts going in there. And turn 3 was just as slippery. All the corners were really slippery today, but we had a lot of faith in the number 16 car, and I had a lot of faith in the setup and myself. So we were able to pass some cars.
For that last restart, setting up for the green-white checkered, you restarted in the 3rd position. You were able to clear for 2nd place going into turn 1. Had we not had that other late race yellow setting up for the green-white checkered, which had you on the outside of the front row, did you have anything for that 99?
I don't know. He was really good on a short run. we came down and did some adjustments to try to make it a short run car, and it felt really good. I do believe we could have done something. I think I was a little bit better in the tunnel turn than him, so definitely I was a little bit more aggressive. So I definitely think I could have done something there. But yeah, we tweaked the thing underneath the caution for the green white, and I think we could have done something. So really proud of the guys though.
Well, Joseph, you said it's a privilege to be able to talk to us since you've been finishing fourth place. Well, we now get to be able to hear you do some shout-outs.
Yeah, I like to thank Rapid Fire Pizza, Jones Racing Setup, Shorber Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. So shout out to those guys.
Well, we're going to be seeing him tomorrow night in the Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet in the Soda Guys Cup Series, but Joseph Piscota brings the Colleague Racing entry home in second place here tonight. Congrats on a great run. Looking forward to maybe talking to you tomorrow night.
Hopefully, appreciate it.
And let's now get our race winner. 4 races in a row for the second time this season. He won the race lead really on pit road and never looked back. And we've got him here, David Santini. And David, I mean, we know, as we said, that first pit stop there with that caution, you were able to beat your teammate off pit road. Nobody was able to challenge you after that. But let's say it was on the track between you and the 8. How were the two you set up? Do you think you had something to get around him under green flag conditions?
Yeah, this it was really challenging this week, passing anybody. When he was out there in front, I was hanging right behind him there, and Dirty Air just would not let you get really any closer. And then if you got too close in the corners, you just got so tight. But yeah, once I got in front of him on pit road, it was funny because he even mentioned to me how terrible it is being right behind somebody. So yeah, even he had the same problem once he was behind too. So it wasn't fun. It was definitely challenging this week for sure.
We talked to Logan just moments ago, and he said that you guys as a whole at BJ McLeod Motorsports kind of threw away as far as the setup turn 1. You had your car set up for turns 2 and 3. We saw you several times, especially I think it was on the second long green flag run. Your car was kind of sliding through turn 1. Was that because of the way you guys had the setup built?
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, the track was pretty warm, and I mean, the whole track honestly kind of felt like a dirt track. Like you were just sliding in every corner, no matter what you did, and you just had to race it that way. It was. For me, it felt a little tight on entry, but exit was super loose. It was rough. But yeah, we pretty much threw away 1 and then just worked on 2 and 3. So
Yeah, David, I mean, with the way the track temperature was changing throughout the race just because of the cloud cover, was that affecting your cars in any fashion?
a little bit. We didn't have too much shade. I think at one point, the straightaway between 1 and 2 was a little shaded, and I think 2 got a little shaded at one point. But it did help. It helped a lot actually when it was cooler. When it in those warm corners, man, it was just like ice. You were just sliding so bad.
David, this is your 4th win in a row, stretching all the way back to Michigan. Next week, we're going to be going to Mid-Ohio, or I'm sorry, not Mid-Ohio, rather the Indianapolis road course. The last road course we were at, Mid-Ohio, that was the race afterwards that your streak of wins began. What's the feeling for preparation heading into the road course configuration?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty excited. I like the road courses. However, I've never raced on the Indy road course yet. I think I did like 2 practice laps there a couple days ago just to try it out. But I'm really looking forward to it because I think it's going to be new for everybody. So it'll be fun to watch that.
Oh no, David, you said the wrong words. You're supposed
I was
to say
just
that.
going to say, you're not supposed to be confident. You weren't confident about Pocono. We're talking in victory lane.
Well, I still don't like Pocono. It doesn't matter if I won. I still really don't like it, but it worked out good this week, I guess. So yeah.
It definitely did. You pick up your 7th win on the season. The playoff points continue to build up. And we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Awesome, guys. Hey, appreciate it. Thank you. And obviously, Bearing Real Estate for being on the car. If they weren't on the car, it wouldn't have been as fast. And then we have Rapid Fire Pizza, Jones Racing Setup, Shorbers Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and the Abiding Love Memorial Urns. And, of course, Barry and Logan over at BJ McLeod. We've been really working together well this year. So it's really coming together good.
Well, not only is it your 4th win in a row, but it also is the 7th win in a row for the BJ McLeod Motorsports team. So the momentum continues with you guys, and congrats on your win tonight. We look forward to talking to you next week at Indianapolis.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
And so after that, our coverage concludes here tonight from Pocono Raceway. And Sam, you know, we talked about last week at the conclusion of Chicagoland. We've done broadcasts here at Pocono where drivers have slipped and slid around, and it's been caution fest. We've had where they've gone 3, 4, 5 wide and had long green flag runs. This kind of seemed to fit right in the middle of it.
I mean, this is kind of the way that this series has been going on almost all entire time we've been broadcasting. Is there's some cautions in the first part, have a huge long green flag run in the middle where we have green flag pit stops, and then we finish it out with the green flag with a green white checkered finish. So it kind of hit every mark that we were expecting to see with this series at this point.
Definitely did. Very typical Pocono race, if you will. Looking ahead to next week, guess what? We're actually going to have some notes to be able to look at, because when we were at Mid-Ohio, it was their first road course stop of the season. Next week at the Indianapolis road course is their second stop. So we'll be able to look back at some previous notes from the last road course race. But, I mean, what are we looking at in that one? Because as Santini just said, not very many people have a whole lot of experience there. He only just turned a couple of his first laps a couple of days ago. So with it kind of being a blank slate for everybody, do we see some of the drivers that we may not necessarily have seen at the front, these speedways, jumping up to the front there at Indy?
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, we saw the BJ McLeod guys doing well at their last road course, but Mid Ohio and the road course, the Indy road course, is really different. Mid Ohio's got a lot more variation of the height wise. It's going to be a lot more of a flatter road course setting for these drivers. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they incorporate using the rumble strips compared to not using the rumble strips.
Absolutely. And of course, at Mid-Ohio, you end up doing a lot more right-hand turns than you do left-hand turns. It's almost like the course is backwards as opposed to a speedway. Same for the Indianapolis road course. So could be something for a lot of those guys to have to adjust to as well. But David Santini takes the checkered flag here tonight in a wild overtime finish at Pocono Raceway, picking up his 4th straight win of the season, 7th of his career here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. As always, Sam, appreciate you joining me in the booth tonight.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. You can tune in tomorrow night. We'll be back here in the Pocono Mountains as we'll be getting ready for the Soda Guys Cup Series to have their race here to finish out the weekend. And of course, next week we're at the Indianapolis Road Course here for these Rapid Fire Pizza National Series drivers. But for Sam Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning in tonight as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.